Hi, 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 hi. Welcome to the Bitchuation Room on a Tuesday, February 3rd. We made it to February. Holy shit. You thought January 2021 was bad. My God. This is obviously the Bitchuation Room. I am your host, Francesca Fiorentini. We are reporting live from the upside down, the sunken place, the 28th ring of hell. We have just a really uplifting show today talking about rings of pedophiles. I fell into a burning ring of pedophiles. That kind of stuff. So, with me, comedian Gareth Reynolds, returning champion, friend of the show, is going to help me deal with just how awful everything is. And so will you. You better. No, we're then going to be talking a little bit about what Tulsi Gabbard is doing in Georgia. All good, all above board. And then later on, journalist Jake Lahut is joining us to talk about Congresswoman Nancy Mace. You might remember her because she once said she wanted the Jan 6 rioters to hit her in the face so she could write a book about it. Yeah, turns out she's having a little Fetterman of a time over in Congress, losing her mind, literally doesn't have a chief of staff, is running for governor of South Carolina, and is airing all her dirty laundry on the Congress floor, including nudes of her. Anyway, she's probably fine. We elect the best. So stick around for that. If you are here, you're liking the stream, you're sharing the stream, you're liking the podcast, giving it 5 stars wherever you are watching, consuming this show right now. Helps people discover the show. So thank you so much. Also, if you missed my little romp through the theaters, the Melania screenings over the weekend, check it out over on YouTube. I talked to some of the eager over 85-year-old women, mostly white, who went to go see the Melania premiere. Opening night, I went as my little character. It was very fun. I was triggering everybody. Everyone hated me. People who hated Trump hated me. People who loved Trump didn't know whether they were supposed to hate me. It was a good time. Anyway, that is out now. So hopefully you have enjoyed that. Also, I'm doing something most Thursdays. We'll see if I can. I probably can't do it this Thursday. The point is, candidate corner, people. It is a midterm election, ostensibly. And so many awesome progressive candidates are out there running city councils, state legislatures, running for Congress, running for governor. And I am interviewing them. On last Thursday, I interviewed Nate Bluen, who is running in a new congressional district in Utah. He's an awesome Medicare for all, abolish ICE progressive. And, he's in a minority in the state legislature that is doing a lot of fuck shit over there. But he was excellent. Check that out. Send me suggestions. And you know whose suggestions I listen to the most? I'm just going to be honest with you. I listen to the Frantifa, my people, the people who subscribe to the Only Frans over on patreon.com/bitchuation room. We got a whole little chat where people send me who they would like to see on the show. I've gotten some great recommendations. Thank you all for supporting the show on Patreon. You can also support it as a member on YouTube. You can also support it as a paying member over on Substack, or on Twitch. There's a million different ways. That reminds me, I need to open my Twitch activity feed. Doopy doopy doo. So yes, thank you so much for your support. $10 gets you that shout out during the fart song, which is quite controversial. People told me in the flesh that they didn't like it. You know who you are, ma'am. Which is impossible because it's a song made up of farts. And any 12 to 13-year-old boy, or me when I was 12 to 13, loves that song. So I don't understand why you wouldn't just, that's a legit banger. That's in your faves. That's a Super Bowl halftime show in and of itself. So anywho, also, I will be doing a show on Valentine's Day, stand-up show at the Ice House called New World Disorder. Brand new lineup, except Matt Lieb is still there. And so get your tickets February 14th, 9:30 p.m. at the Ice House in Pasadena. And final 2 announcements. I'm so sorry. For the patrons, we're doing an Ask Me Anything Monday, February 9th, the next Monday. We're doing an Ask Me Anything that is following our show on Monday. That's right. Next week, I'm taking a little break. I am taking a little time off to go see I'm going to go see Cardi B, okay, you guys? I'm seeing Cardi B on the first show on her tour, and I'm very excited, and so that's why we're doing the show on Monday. So, Monday at 1, regular show. Monday, 2 or 3 o'clock, Ask Me Anything. So, send in your questions for Antifa, all the patrons, all the Substack subscribers, everyone who, helps support this show with your hard-earned dollars. So, thank you in advance. And with that, let me shut up and let me bring him in. Oh boy, I don't have our rundown. Oh God, he's like a comic. He asks people like what they do for a living on stage, and then he makes little clips about it. He's also the co-host of the Dollop podcast and the We're Here to Help podcast. And his film, Give It Up, has its world premiere next month. Please welcome Gareth Reynolds.
That intro started out real bad, but you got it together. You did get it together.
Perfect. What was?
You ask people what they're doing.
No notes.
I do hate doing that. I really do.
What?
Being like, what do you do for work, sir? I've tried to come up with better ways in for crowd work that are not so pathetic.
First of all, don't take it personally. You're the best.
It's a very personal thing.
You're the best one out there. I watch, of all the people who I have not blocked on or muted on Instagram.
It's becoming quite niche. Go ahead.
No. You're fucking hilarious. Are you kidding me?
Thank you.
Shut up.
Thank you.
Don't come in here and be all insecure.
You're
Mr.
right.
Podcast. I got a film coming out. No, Gareth is the king of crowd work, truly, and I know everyone says that, but he's actually someone.
But I yell it.
I enjoy. Yes.
No, people. I'm in San Jose at Cinequest. People can go see the movie on March 15th, and you can go to giveitupfilm.com
I'm
to
very
get
excited.
tickets and information. Will you be there?
Is there going to be an LA premiere? Are there going to be women over the age of 80? Because that's kind of my demo.
That video you made was so funny.
Oh,
it was so you are so funny, but that video was just exceptionally funny.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really thought that was
when I have when I cajole my friends into doing things for me. Shout out to Brendan. Things happen.
Yeah, I think that is it. It's what I always think about making things. I'm like, I can't go do this, and then I see it and I go, oh, it's worth it. That's what I thought when I was watching that. I was like, oh, that looked like a lot of pain in the ass work, but the cold approach to the Melania conversations, you did very well. I thought that was.
I got some pushback. You don't add the push. You don't add the you don't know.
No,
we don't live in fascism.
No.
There was one guy. This was the best. But the best part about the Melania piece is one guy. He sees them interviewing people. He doesn't have any idea what I'm saying. He just comes out and he's obviously one eye is looking this way, which is ironic because my character is also cross-eyed.
Yeah.
So we're in the struggle. But he comes out and he goes, "The Democrats have stolen so much money." And you're like, wait. You just emerged from a $75 million documentary just raving about how much the Democrats have stolen in money, like a literal bribe from Jeff Bezos. And you're out here preemptively defensive about the piece of shit that you just saw. It was so funny.
We have to find a shorthand to how to cut through the wasted time and words of a conversation about how the Democrats are all so terrible to just sort of be like, I hate them. The worst.
Yeah, I also hate Democrats.
Let's talk about what's happening right now, which is the president maybe 8 kids.
Yes.
It might have happened.
Maybe. I could have gone way harder on that, but you know what, Gareth?
You didn't have to.
It was,
and it was Melania's night. It was Melania's weekend.
I didn't want to take anything away from her by talking about him.
No.
Gareth Reynolds, it is February. Maybe a new leaf has been turned over and, we're going to turn this thing around. But what are you bitching about?
Sorry, what was that? What?
I'm saying maybe things are looking up, but in the meantime, what are you bitching about?
That's not even copium. That's cocaine.
I believe in the people. All right. I I don't want to say what I want to say, but please, what are you bitching about, Gareth? You know how the show goes. Stop acting like you're fucking brand new here.
Well, you want something that is a bitch that is taking us away from the absolute what is happening nature of the past year, but then like the past 3 days feel like 8 years. But here's what I'm bitching. It's the Super Bowl this weekend, Francesca.
Yes.
It's time to stop hyping up the Super Bowl commercials like this is 1994. The Budweiser frogs, the what's up guys, that's over. So we're done with that. So stop pretending like anybody watches. You now do go piss during the commercials. They used to be like, when do you get a chance to go? The games are terrible and rigged, and the commercials are awful. They used to be like stunt casting. You used to be like, oh my God, did you see like David Cassidy was in a commercial, Ben Stiller was in a commercial. Now they're all in commercials anyway. If you want me to be entertained by a Super Bowl ad or a series of ads, make Matthew McConaughey not in one. And that will shock me.
I feel like,
What do you do for a living?
What?
Sorry, I was doing crowd work. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, excuse me? I didn't pick up. It's fine. See, that's why you're the crowd work guy, and I'm the person that goes in pre-scripted with questions for
that's
the
why you have more followers, and I'm in a office in San Jose right now. First of all,
it's an office center, and it has a nice teal wall.
Right.
Look, here's the thing. Super Bowl commercials now are just things that in 2 years will be highly illegal, and everyone who sold them will be dodging PR questions or like questions from journalists about like why Larry David was out there hawking all this crypto.
That
now,
one really.
It's just
that
like,
one. Well, they did a preview for the guy who did what was that Emma Stone movie that just came out? I can't remember, whatever the fuck it was called.
Begonia?
They did a preview for his commercial with Emma Stone. So now there's a commercial for his commercial. This can't go on.
God. Yeah.
If there's a devil, let's go with the portal.
Well, I think we've gone. I think we've gone with the portal, Garrett. This is, I think, the problem of this country and the timeline that we're on, and the world. Really, I don't know any corner of the world. If someone knows a good corner of the world, let me know, so I can, buy a one-way ticket.
So you are a flat earther.
Oh yeah. It's definitely
you believe in the four corners. Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, it has not been proven.
It's true. No, I saw on Rogan that there were giants in the Midwest, and then some people say it's because the scientist who came up with that measured the femur wrong. But point is, Trump might have eaten a human. So
we're getting to the eating human part. But okay, here's what I'm bitching about, Gareth. So obviously you're in the comedy world. I'm in the comedy world ish, and there's other comedians with bigger podcasts than we have, and Andrew Schulz, and he's got his Flagrant podcast, and he's got whatever this is with Charlemagne the God, and who I like, but I don't understand. And I feel like that's okay to say. Like, I like him. I don't get what really makes him tick or why he would even want to be in the same room with Andrew Schulz, who I don't think is actually that talented or funny, and certainly was one of the people that made a right-word shift or open shift during the run-up to the 2024 election, was one of the many podcasts that kind of had Trump on to glaze him in kind of moments like this.
I would drive him crazy. No drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. I would say that.
Did you say that to Don Jr.?
Yeah, Don's a little wild. He's a wild. He can be a little tough.
Okay, so things like that. I had all these hard questions about, Don Jr. And is it true that Don Jr. had this crazy party at Trump Tower and you got mad and kicked everyone out? And he's like, yeah. And then they laugh, and that kind of sort of like, every little monkey on that couch just goes crazy. And here is what Andrew Schulz is now saying, now that ICE has killed, well, many people, but two legal observers, American citizens, white people, one of them an ICU nurse, Alex Preddy. Here's Andrew Schulz trying to just look, he's not trying to be a good guy, Gareth. He's not saying this because he wants to like be the good guy, but he just wants to talk about it.
Trump on the podcast, and I'm
Stop explaining that. Man.
No, but let me just clarify, because I think it is important to say, like, I know how I had him on the podcast, and so when I'm talking out about this, I'm not doing it to like, get people to be like, oh, he's a good guy or whatever like that, or trying to get anybody on my side. I understand that this is a horrific event that happened. I objectively want to talk about it. I'm not trying to like win anybody over in that.
Wait, this is kind of my favorite. This is like the most bitch made, excuse, right? Andrew Schulz is here like, this is a perfect answer for both the people who are on the right who like him and the people who are on the left. So he's like, I'm not a good guy. Like, I'm not trying to do this to like look good. Okay. In case you thought, I stayed awake at night thinking about how I glazed this fascist during the run up to the election. I'm totally not doing that. I'm like, I still stand by what I said about Democrats used to, get their dick sucked and now they don't. But just so you know, but I do have eyes. And here's what I have to say.
You understand? You know the difference between right and wrong.
There's a difference between right and wrong, and there's a difference between like respecting and honoring the Constitution, the backbone of our country, and then completely shredding it. And this is completely shredding it. And now they're realizing that people have noticed it, and now they're trying to backtrack it. But
by the way, he's been wiping his ass with the Constitution.
Sure,
like, and I've been on record a million times saying like when he said we should terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election, shit like that got to be disqualifying if you're running for president.
So here's a perfect example.
Okay, well, this is the best part. Charlemagne actually makes a good point. Like, he's been saying this for a while. Project 2025. Next year, we don't need elections after 2024. This will be the last election you got to vote in. Andrew Schulz, watch him have no, like, he does not download what Charlemagne is saying at all. No. He's just waiting for his fucking turn to talk.
Time saying, like, when he said we should terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election, shit like that got to be disqualifying if you're running for president.
So here's a perfect example. So it's like, I know that there are people sounding the alarms about this. When I saw these last few weeks in Minnesota, I didn't think it was possible to happen in the United States of America. I'm being 100% serious.
To white people?
No, to anybody.
But you've seen it happen to black people.
Exactly.
Yes, to white people.
It's okay to say that.
No,
it is. But it's okay to say that.
I know.
I really like Charlemagne's kind of like low-key cooking his ass without him really recognizing that he is, because he's like, to white people, because it's definitely been happening. That's what the Black Lives Matter movement was about.
It's like there's so much there. The first thing is that, look, this is what it was. I mean, it was a cash grab. It was like, it's just like everything else. It was a cash grab. The moment that a lot of these guys who have their shows on YouTube and have seen their sort of numbers go down just because of the saturation of this shit, they need shit like this. Rogan needed it. Like Schulz needed it. So they have him on, and it was wildly successful in the moment. There were many of us when they did this who were like, this is a terrible long-term strategy. You have to partially commend Schulz in this moment for being one of the few people who acknowledges that was a fucking dumb idea. But also at the same time, you're like, dude, stop being so stupid smart, where you're like, no, look, the whole thing about this is that Trump is actually a fascist. Who could have seen this coming? And the truth is, so many of us, we didn't know exactly what the form would be. Like, that's what's always so crazy about this shit, is that you're not even sure how it's going to, like, what are the machinations? You just know awful terror, devils in the details. But even with all that being said, the most offensive thing in this clip might be that there is an open protein shaker drink on set, which is just like, who needs to prote up during one of these? Also, are they having a sink in your chair off? One of them will go ass through at some point.
No, and also like the disrespect for like having a lav mic is annoying me. I don't want to be that close to anyone's chest. Like, I can hear them coming through their lav mics. Do you know what I mean?
It's also I've started doing it too, but the holding of the lav mic, I'm like, can we have some Hollywood respect in influencers? It's
true. You should. It's true. He has credit. He gets credit for at least mentioning and saying what is happening. But there needs, this is what I don't like. I need fucking sorries, dude.
Yes.
I need sorries from psycho-Zionists who posited themselves as liberals and
Yes.
came after me for standing with Palestinians and saying you shouldn't do genocide. I need apologies from fucking Anna Kasparian for saying I didn't see fascism coming, bitch. Yes, you did. This is a disservice to your fucking audience. You can't be like, well, I didn't think it'd be this bad, which is effectively what he is doing here.
Yeah.
He's trying to wash his hands so he can still be in good with, viewers. And now that the fucking Epstein files are out and this guy is like openly talked about him, your boy was in the Epstein files. The fact that you didn't ask Trump about any of this is on you.
Attaching any part of your fate to the tail of Donald Trump, if you didn't see how that was a penny-wise, dollar-foolish move, then, you obviously you don't deserve to be where you are. But Rogan isn't doing this. Rogan is still glazing billionaires. Thiel Vaughn, for some reason, gets a pass on everything, which I don't understand. The only reason I think why Schulz is even engaging in this is sort of to what he alludes to, which that he's like, I need to be erudite about how did this even happen? And it's like, dude, because of you fucking people, you pushed him over the edge. Charlemagne is pretty much a Democrat for the most part, from what I know about his politics.
Yeah.
And he is just simply dunking on him with, like, if Democrats can just dunk on you that simply, either your guy sucks or you're not smart.
And I think both. And I think that's the other thing is like the last thing I'll say about this and is these people and their audiences don't understand that the reason politicians like Vance, like Trump, or billionaires like Peter Thiel or Elon Musk go on your show isn't because they think you're smart. It's because they know you're fucking dumb as rocks.
Is this show called Useful Idiots? Am I wrong?
It might be.
I think it's called that. I might be wrong. But I mean, exactly. That is it.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing. It's like I think I need the whole circle completed of, and by the way, I probably should take a break from interviewing politicians because I'm a comic and that's not what I do. And that's probably not what comedians generally, especially if they don't really have political shows, should do. And if we do, I'm going to bring in, I don't know, a fucking journalist to interview them, or I
think that's really it, is that it's like, you get this platform in whatever capacity. And not only do you need to have integrity, but you need to just be careful, because normalizing JD Vance or Peter Thiel or, the list of other people that Rogan's had on who are in the Epstein files is actually super dangerous and not smart for anyone. But, again, it's like if you're literally just thinking about how do you stoke an algorithm weekly, you're probably going to end up long-term having some pretty bad strategy. And all we can hope for is that the chickens come home to roost more and more. And again, if you're going to have a protein drink, have it. But anyone who sips on it slowly, that's psychotic.
Oh, really? Are they that gross? This is a great segue into my ad read.
I think that sometimes you want just a quick meal on the go instead of something like a drink, like an open protein drink, something that's healthy, something that feels like it's chef prepared. Something along those lines, but go ahead. I didn't mean to jump in. I know you had fresh. Frozen.
Wait, hang on. You guys can feel what's coming. People who are watching this as a clip have no idea, but I just want to say that their podcast is called The Brilliant Idiots.
Whoops. I thought it was something more straightforward.
And like get better idiots. Like, listen to Gareth. Look at this guy. He's a fucking idiot.
Stupid man.
Stupid man.
Francesca booked me on a show and I got the date wrong, and I didn't even show up.
That's true.
I'm
saying, like,
stupid.
But you know what? Your heart is in the right place, and I know what's in Gareth's heart, and I know that's not a good reason to listen to him and over Andrew Schulz, but I'm giving it to you. And also, speaking of fresh, chef-prepared meals on the go,
food important, body good for it.
Don't just drink a protein shake. No, for real. My house is having a little bit of a 2026 come to Jesus moment about the amount of unhealthy food we eat.
I've heard your husband freely talk about what he does.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, without giving it too much away, we're having a little bit of a how long do we want to live conversation, and we want to eat better. And that is why I'm going with Factor, you guys, especially for lunches. Factor is made by chefs, designed by dietitians. You can select. You can be like, I want protein heavy, like calorie conscious, blah blah. Otherwise, we'll just
fish.
Yeah, otherwise we'll just make like an afternoon pasta, which I always call midday pasta because I'm like, what are we in Italy? Like, which is not good for you. The point is, Factor meals, people, when you have zero time, zero energy, nothing in your fridge, but you want to eat well, go to factormeals.com/bitchuation, BITCHUATION, 50 off, and get 50% off your first box, plus a free breakfast for a year as long as you have the subscription. Bitchuation 50 off, literally no reason not to try it. Just try it.
I think your promo code should be Frankter. And I used to do Factor ads, and I still don't know what free breakfast for a year means. But I will tell you this. I've gone on the road, and I brought Factor meals with me before and eaten them in my hotel room. And my opener and we literally sat there doing Factor commercials alone, just going, this is the best thing I've ever had. Now, part of it was the road, but the other part was just delicious. They're great. Calorie conscious. I got vegan ones. Go ahead, Frank.
Are you vegan?
No.
Okay, because I was gonna say, because the road is like, oh, you want to pop down to the little like store where you get like a Stouffer's lasagna and pretend like you're 11 again, and your parents are coming home late.
Mama Capali's pizza. Where you're like, ugh.
Yeah, there's just like, and there's so much sodium in that shit, and I'm like, I have hit the Trader Joe's frozen aisle way too many times. The point is, factormeals.com/bitchuation50 off. Use the code. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. And with that, let's talk about pedophiles and rapists. This is the week where. This is the week where 3 million new Epstein files have been released, and that is still, I believe, less than 50% of the total number of Epstein files. There are millions and millions and millions more, but
why don't we call them the pedophiles?
Yeah, I know. It's right there.
Go ahead.
So they are the pedophiles, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. In this new dump, you've got Elon Musk asking on Christmas morning where the party's at.
Motherfucker.
And joking with Epstein about Trump and calling his secretary, quote, knee pads. Ugh. Richard Branson, a big Democratic donor, former Virgin Air owner.
Also island owner,
advising Epstein on how to make a comeback after being a convicted child sex trafficker. Bill Gates emailing Epstein mad that a Russian prostitute gave him an STD and looking for a way to sneak antibiotics into Melinda's food. Israel lobby Democrat Reid Hoffman, corresponding with Epstein after, of course, he was convicted. And Brian Johnson, the billionaire who's trying to live forever by measuring his nighttime erections against his sons, also talking with Epstein. There is the diary of a 16-year-old girl who, it seems, gave birth to Epstein's child and then had that child taken from her. There is testimony of Katie Johnson, which is a pseudonym, who sued Trump for raping her at age 13 with Epstein and then threatening to kill her family just like he did to a 12-year-old girl named Maria. And that, Gareth, is just the lightweight stuff, okay? Because there is that everything I just said is corroborated. There are uncorroborated accounts, however, of Prince Andrew, who we know, according to Virginia Giuffre, raped her. Prince Andrew torturing a girl and killing her. George H.W. Bush raping a boy. Sorry, did I say trigger warning at the beginning of this? Bill Clinton and Epstein raping a boy. Accounts of elites eating babies. And Robin Leach hanging out with the Sinaloa cartel and choking a girl to death with his hands. And this is true, files that corroborate that Trump did, in fact, meet Melania through Epstein. Any questions so far?
That last one used to be like, can you believe it? And now you're just like, what? That means nothing at this point.
Well, it did. The people at the Melania screening did not pick that up. But that's all very open and shut, right, Garrett? That's clear.
It's honestly, they need to start I'm the only guy who's saying release these slower. This is too much. This, please, 5% at a time. Treat it like downloading something with bad Wi-Fi, because you cannot drop this amount of cliff notes and expect us to be able to kind of calibrate and do anything. This is what when they were talking about assaulting the system and all that stuff, it's been very effective strategy. But this, you can't keep processing this level of shit. I mean, again,
it's funny because
it is funny.
Well, it's not funny, but there is a reason they're doing this. Is they are overwhelming people, and you do understand like why when you have like a big leak or you have documents, you usually go through a journalist, that you select,
yes,
kind of responsibly,
Glenn Greenwald, or yes.
Well, I don't know about that anymore, but yes, it's some, Glenn Greenwald, who will then, make sure that you are sent to jail for 6 years or whatever.
Yes.
Matt Taibbi. That's why you go to a journalist so they can parse what is, because I just said there's corroborated stuff and there's stuff that isn't corroborated. The eating baby stuff is not corroborated, but it's very much in there. And so of course people are thinking about
clearly, the DOJ is focused on redacting the assaulters, the criminals, versus the victims. That has become very apparent right away. But even then, they're not nailing it. But, they're still fucking up a tremendous amount because they are Trump's DOJ. But this is what my question is at this point, and I fear the answer is, where do we break? I mean, where do we actually, as a society, we're not even like planning a general strike. We all just sort of walk out of our houses like, nope, because this is, you can't keep going at this clip.
Yeah, we're just punching the sky at this point.
It's just stop. Like what else? I mean, if you are doing this, you're raping kids and you're killing them, and this is all happening. And then you have Todd Blanche on TV like, hey, look, it's not a crime to party with Epstein. We can't kind of hang in there. The garbage ain't going to take itself out. This and to stand out with all this going on, for Elon still to be able to stand out as a loser is just
it's really
stamina to be the lamest man of all time. For him to be in the Epstein emails as a Christmas morning, like, I'm actually pretty important, and everyone to be like, yeah, the island's closed, we're renovating it, and him to be like, wait, hold on, come on, I want you to be.
Oh my God. Speaking of Todd Blanche, this is what he had to say about everything. Again, Deputy Attorney General. This is
former attorney.
Yes, doing and someone who directly negotiated, which is the reason why he's on Fox News, directly negotiated for Ghislaine Maxwell to be moved to a minimum security prison that is colloquially known as Club Fed, where she gets to do like Pilates and have a support animal or some shit.
Puppy.
Any chance? I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein, and so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things, and if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein.
They can't even fake giving a shit.
Yeah,
like that might be the difference. They used to be really good at like faking it and being like, wow, they're now just like, well, what do you want? You're allowed to butt chug with Epstein. It's not crazy to butt chug with Epstein.
This is just a few little details. Yeah, I mean, that kind of callousness is just insane. Like, to not even give a nod to the severity of this.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, I think, women in the Republican Party, because obviously all of this is, we are talking about someone with incredible power and wealth, abusing the most marginalized, like runaway teens, kids who were already abused by their family members, like the most marginalized people. And these are motherfuckers who could just ask a beautiful woman out on a date who was over the age of 18 and be fucking normal. But because
hire sex. I mean, literally, like hire sex workers. If this is you, if you want to have a transactional relationship, then you go ahead. Granted, Bill Gates obviously decided he was gonna have to Mickey his wife's pasta so that she didn't get the clap. But because the truth is that's why this shit is so fucked up and sadistic and sick. Is this very clearly is not even just like it's beyond this sexual thing. This is like
beyond, yes.
This is stuff that when 4chan started, you're like, look at these kooks. And now we should be able to meet in the middle and be like, 4chan had the map. They just had the people wrong. And we are literally everyone owes everyone an apology. And we just need to draw ire upwards because
I will go
this is
under
over.
a bridge in Dallas and drink your weird jungle juice sold to you by a guy with a parrot on his shoulder. That literally happened. And I will wait for one of the Kennedys, I'm forgetting which one, to come back if you agree that we should be guillotining these motherfuckers. I'm sorry. Like, and
it is a page 1 rewrite.
Just a few notes. In order to access the Epstein files, Gareth, you have to verify that you are over the age of 18.
It's a trap. First of all, obviously that's phishing.
If you say no, you get a whole different set of files.
Say no, a Southwest ticket pops up. That is some of the craziest shit. They are so sloppy with
and to that point, they have released the names the photographs of some of the victims, nude photographs of the victims. They did not redact those. The one person's email that is sort of ubiquitously not there is any email that could have come from Trump himself. So you're not seeing that. You're seeing like Larry Summers, Elon Musk. You're seeing a bunch of names and a bunch of emails, Reid Hoffman, all this stuff. But you're not seeing Donald Trump.
Well, I think it's look, we're at the point where we this country has been dumbed down to the point where he's getting away with it. Whether he gets away with it, I really something has to give, because you just can't allow that to happen and think you have any modicum of a society left. But there are enough stupid people that are really trying to carry him off the field like Joe Paterno still. So we are really the fact that, and even with all of that work, he's still coming across through the evidence, through his actions, through all of it, incredibly guilty. Again, you don't need a corkboard for this. There are just certain people who do not have the lobes anymore to process fiction or reality, and that is all he can depend on. But the thing is that he is not a good liar. He's gotten really far on lying, and it's because he won't stop, but he's not a good liar.
No, and he's obvious out here now today saying, it's clear that that Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff conspired against me. Michael Wolff, obviously the journalist.
He's wearing a tuxedo during this little diatribe as well. Sorry.
They conspired against me. He somehow thinks there isn't this account of the 13-year-old. This is, by the way, testimony in her lawsuit. The 13-year-old he raped, who said that also both defendants, that's Epstein and Trump, let the plaintiff know each was a very wealthy, powerful man and indicated they had the power, ability, and means to carry out their threats. Indeed, defendant Trump stated that plaintiff shouldn't ever say anything if she didn't want to disappear like Maria, a 12-year-old female that was forced to be involved in the third incident with defendant Trump, and that the plaintiff had not seen since that third incident, and he was capable of having her whole family killed. Like, we can all read that. That's there. That's in the document. So, any hoodle, I hope you know that there are powerful people that Republicans are calling to testify before the House Oversight Committee. And they are the Clintons.
We got them.
The Clintons.
We got them.
Have agreed to testify about the Epstein files. And I just don't like.
Obviously, it's so stupid that parts of your brain come out through your ears and nostrils. But what does that even look like? What does this even look like for them to be in front of this. I don't understand any of the Clintons' part of this right now.
It is, they've agreed to, I think, a 4-hour interview. I think it's behind closed doors. Obviously, it will be transcribed.
That depends on what your definition of human sashimi is.
It's so terrifying. I believe Bill Clinton was on the Epstein file on the Lolita Express, wherever the fuck it's called, 17 times.
Yeah.
And by the way, he will be trotted out in 2028 still to stump for Gavin Newsom. That is a promise. God
and when
damn
that
it.
happens, you ever see the footage of Cowboy fans smashing their TV in playoff games? That's when I'm gonna have a Cowboys fan moment on my Samsung, where I'm just like, "Yep, that's the end of TV."
So this is just so insane to me. So they were being voted in contempt of court, which is like, just go to jail, dude. Go to fucking jail. The shit that's in these files. And look, first of all, I think Hillary should make Bill do it for sure. She's not in these the way that he is. What?
Why is she going? What is she?
Yeah.
She's just there.
They're gonna, bring up Benghazi again. They'll do it all over again. I'm just saying, like, you go to jail for this. Motherfuckers have been in contempt of court. Peter Navarro was in contempt. Bannon, who's all over the Epstein files, was in contempt of court. Man, whatever. These fools are never going to ask their own to, testify. This is what I would do. I'm just saying. That being said, do I think absolutely all of these fools should testify? Yes, they should. I'm not saying protect the Clintons. I don't give a shit. But it's so funny because of course they'd be like, fine, because that is what Democrats do.
Yes.
They will play by the rules that nobody else plays by.
We Dave Anthony on the dollop when we talk about some asshole. When we talk about this, he has to always reset me to no, they're stupid more than evil. And I just can't do it. But then moves like this make you go, no, they are stupid. They are just that stupid. But I don't. Like the UK is actually, and again, they are terrible. The UK is in shambles. It's a total shit show. They are starting to actually have some sort of government intervention investigation into this stuff with teeth. We will see where it goes and how much of it is just sort of, theatrical. But we are nowhere near any version of any of this. This is why you can't, if you're the Democrats, you can't run on January 6th with a Cheney to beat Donald Trump. You could have beaten him. When they talk about why didn't Biden release this, you hear any of these idiots talk about it, they're like, well, because he had, look, you gotta just fucking go for it. My new fetish is listening to Democrats talk about, or pundits talk about how Trump can't do this. It's like, you are like the mayor of the city that Air Bud played in. He's going to play basketball. They're going to win the championships. You need to figure out a new strategy.
Out to Emily Heller. Yes. She did that joke on late night. It was so, it's
well, I didn't know that.
Well, fucking good minds.
And I think she's great.
She's great. Okay. Can I just say, we don't have time to get into this too much.
I'll make time.
But the other question is how much Epstein was or was not a spy for Israeli intelligence. Look, Ghislaine Maxwell is the daughter of a Mossad agent, Robert Maxwell, who also died under suspicious circumstances. The Miami Herald journalist responsible for locking Epstein away the first time also thought that he was probably working with Mossad. A former Mossad agent who I don't know to what level this guy is like legit. He goes on RT and stuff. His name is Ari Ben Menash. Says Epstein was running like basically a blackmail operation through this. I also think he was a twisted fuck who enjoyed this. So I think there's only so much, oh no, I had to get underage girls with all of these powerful people. But anyway, the pieces are there. I imagine perhaps we'll know more as there's more files released. We do know, however, that former Prime Minister Ehud Barak was besties with Epstein. And he also graped, as you mentioned, Virginia Giuffre. And apparently she said she thought she would die effectively. Here is this Laurel and Hardy sketch of Epstein and Ehud Barak talking about the rise of a one Peter Thiel, who is also littered throughout the Epstein files that have just been released.
He thought there was two cyber companies. Look out, and even though I know Peter, I've never met Peter Thiel, and everybody says he sort of jumps around and acts sort of strange, like he's on drugs.
Smoking, yeah. He looks under drugs.
Wait, that's them saying that Peter Thiel looks under drugs. He look under drugs. Now listen to how much Ehud Barak seems like he's just like the stenographer, like he's his secretary for Epstein.
He has a company called Palantir. Pallen. Tier. Palantir is Peter.
No, it's named after the all-seeing ball, okay? That Lord Denethor had, all right, and made him mad. It's Palantir.
Thiel's company, and look out.
Palantir, Palantir.
Yes.
Talking to my mom.
How you write Thiel? Thiel.
Thiel.
Yeah. LLY.
No. Thiell.
It's like me giving a confirmation number to help on an American Airlines hold line. No, A-T, T as in Tom.
It's just like, just write the number 6666, he'll appear.
But,
so
Francesca,
by the way,
he's Mossad, owned by Mossad. This is all, if they don't have blackmail on you, they pay you. That is the United States government. That's what we have.
This apparently was the beginning of the Thiel Epstein relationship. They were getting to know each other, and of course Palantir has been heavily involved in Israeli AI tech, military tech to systematically murder babies and children. So this is Epstein when Brexit happened. So this is like a while ago, actually. Epstein emailing Peter Thiel going, Brexit, just the beginning, very excitedly. And then Thiel writes, of what? And Epstein writes, return to tribalism, counter to globalization, amazing new alliances. You and I both agree. Zero interest rates were too high. As I said in your office, finding things on their way to collapse was much easier than finding the next bargain. In other words, vultures prey on the descent of everything, the tribalism, the extreme nationalism. This was Bannon stuff. This is Thiel stuff. And it turns out it was also Epstein stuff. Anyway.
Factor's meals are so good that you're going to think you got a meal in a restaurant and you're just at home. No, really I think that they have no respect for us, no respect for they view themselves as a chosen squad of humans who are here to we're extras. We're the Sims characters, and they view it like this. So if they have no respect for us and no respect for human lives, why do we grant them anything other than that? This is the coming out party of reality. I can't believe it. I mean, sometimes I'll take hallucinogens and you go, this is all fucking fake and bullshit and stuff like that. So we are around at the most interesting time, and it keeps getting more interesting. But I'll be goddamned if we're just going to sit back and be like, nah, I mean, we're eating babies now. That just can't be how
anyway,
this
but you can't tax billionaires because, they're part of the coalition.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta bring him into the
fold. No
fold.
matter who, in 3 years. There's not going to be. I got into and then I'll leave you to your show. But I got into an argument with a guy in Threads.
We got another story. Goddammit.
Good. Where I was like, bro, we don't have elections. I was like, that's not how this works. And this guy's like, there'll be elections. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This dude maybe eats babies. You think
he's gonna give up power? Like, there's no way. They know the jig is up. In fact, Bannon said, if we lose the midterms, a lot of us are going to jail. Yeah. Which, I mean, for a guy who actually did go to jail, did go to jail for Trump. It's like, nothing new under the sun. But here was Trump this week on Dan Bongino, who had returned to Rumble after his little stint at the FBI,
where he had to work 10-hour days.
Oh, so long. It's so ridiculous. And no sponsors. He wasn't even allowed. And here he is talking to Trump, who's basically saying what you're saying, which is, nope, there are not going to be elections. Why?
These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win. Now you're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get, with a court order, the ballots. You're going to see some interesting things come out. But, like the 2020 election, I won that election by so much. Everybody does it.
So you're going to see something in Georgia, and that something was Tulsi Gabbard, who has been very much MIA. I mean, as the man who was going to end forever wars, Donald Trump, has launched many wars, has, toppled a democratically elected government in Venezuela, now threatening Iran. We're definitely going to bomb Iran over the Epstein, to hide the Epstein files, or invade Iran, or whatever the fuck. Here she is wearing this little this is an amazing photo. She's at the Fulton County Election Center. Remember, that is in Georgia, where Donald Trump
11,000.
11,000. Do you remember the number? Because I did, and I was like, hell yeah. I'm so glad I had that in my mind. What?
Wasn't he looking for 11,000?
780. Oh, God. Beginner.
You hurt your first guests.
I do hurt my first guest.
Yeah.
With all the great stories. She is at an FBI raid on Fulton County, straight up. The DNI is evaluating both past and enduring vulnerabilities in election infrastructure to ensure that foreign adversaries are unable to exploit them in future elections. Now, spy chiefs typically don't concern themselves with matters of domestic politics, but the Office of Director of National Intelligence was created in the aftermath of September 11th to sort of orchestrate as sort of an orchestra conductor for the larger intelligence community. Part of that mandate includes defending against foreign meddling in U.S. elections, senior administration officials say, by helping coordinate the interagency response of the Justice and Homeland Security departments. Apparently, I was going to say guys, but we're going back to Italy Gate. This was where like some sort of satellite was like stationed out of Italy and was like changing votes. It's very fun. Trump, again, has never conceded. And
beyond that.
Yeah, he's beyond that. She previously released a report last summer, including testimony from a whistleblower that former President Barack Obama and senior administration officials pushed flawed conclusions in a 2017 intelligence community assessment to allege falsely that Trump colluded with the Russians. Which, by the way, there was also back channeling with Thiel and Bannon and Epstein all knew basically that the Podesta emails were dropping the day after the grab him by the pussy, or the afternoon of the grab him by the pussy tape.
But there's the media only will take the Russia part of the Israel Mossad conversation.
Yes, they will.
They cherry pick that part. They say that it's the Russia thing again. I mean, they're the fucking worst, But Tulsi Gabbard is someone who did fool me. Like, I think you have to own your political mistakes.
TBR-Live is my Venmo. I ask for $1 for every Tulsi fan. So well, I would appreciate. I will wait until it comes through.
Just text me a goddamn fucking Venmo. But,
okay.
But I got had. Obama got me. And Tulsi got me. They got me. They had me. They got me. And you have to be able to
a little apples and oranges. I'll let it stand. Keep going.
Well, I'm just saying, I get conned too. Before I became a nihilist, I got conned too. And I would say that she got me. She had me for a minute.
Yeah.
So her being involved in this level, it's just, I hate to break it all down to capitalism, but if money is all that matters and power is associated with money, you're not going to see anything but the most heartless grifters grift the hardest to get their own personal security. And, she fucking sucks, and they all do. And they all, it's like a zombie movie with government. Every time someone goes off to check on the person who went missing, they also don't come back. But that picture,
you can the analogy. Yeah. This to me is like,
is that something Emily Heller did?
No, shout out. No, but it's like working for the rival, gang and finally going over to the other side, and they make you like clean the toilets. Yeah. Like, this is straight up
in football
clean
terms,
the toilets job.
She became a raider. in football terms.
That's
She's a
so
Raider.
mean.
I don't know. It's just whenever they went to be the Raiders, you're like, they went to the dark side. But no, I mean, it's this. They're slow. We watch this reality go in slow motion, and they don't deserve to steal the election just based on the fact that elections are supposed to have merit. Even though we watch Bernie Sanders be completely have the election stolen from him 2 times, but you don't get to go to an island and do the things you do to children and all that. But even all that aside, they are very clearly stealing this next election. Sitting around and waiting for it to happen is the fucking craziest shit in the world. It's happening. It's coming. Like Bannon said, they're not allowed to lose this election, so they're not going to. Yep. Trump is now on the other side. Trump holds the chips. He's not going to lose this. It ain't happening. Yep. So you could sit there and, like say that you've got your heroes in the Democratic Party because Cory Booker might have shit a diaper standing up for 22 hours or whatever. They're gone. They're all owned by Israel. You ain't getting a free and fair election. That's it. Trump is going to stick around if we sit here and decide that you can threaten to kill children's families. They're all getting AIPAC money. We're at the point where we're either in or out. So
no, I completely agree with you. We have to be out, and that is out on the streets. Get to know your neighbors, get your people, find out your plans, and organize. Because I think organizing is the only thing that we can do. But I 100% agree with you. I mean, I think it needs to be. I think it's early. It's February, but it really needs to be dawning on people that we will not have free and fair elections come November. So yeah, what is the contingency plan? What are the Democrats going to do? Chuck Schumer's out this week going, I will always send more money to Israel. He effectively said as much aid as they need. I mean, like truly lock that man in, a Ziploc.
His pants are trying to eat him. Like it's
over. I know his whole back is like slowly. He's
generous. There's no back. It's hips and neck. That's all he's got.
Gareth Reynolds, you're the best. And thank you for stopping by. And please ask me what I do because it's way too many things. If I were in your audience going like, I'm a podcaster / commentator. I've been on Piers Morgan. Anyway, if you see me, you'd be ma'am.
No.
Ma'am.
You called Piers Morgan a dingleberry. That's way more than being on Piers Morgan.
That's
you
true.
Called him a dingle. He has some weird fetish where he like, you know what I mean? He likes a high heel in the balls. Because his face when you called him a dingleberry was like he had to stifle a weird joy. Yeah. It was like he snuck a fart out. It was really weird. But you're the best. Thank you for having me. And I really
watch you and see you.
This Nancy Mace conversation is going to be fucking awesome. So
do you want to stick around?
I'll go back on the road. I'll just interject too much. I've had too much coffee. But you could go to my website, which is GarethReynolds.com. Listen to the dollop. Listen to We're Here to Help. We have a very exciting announcement coming with We're Here to Help. I have another podcast called Next We Have. I have a talk show that you're on.
Is that happening?
Yeah, it's happening. It'll be out at like March. Probably it'll come out. But then the exciting thing is I made a movie called Give It Up. And that'll be at the Cinequest Film Festival in beautiful San Jose. One time in San Jose, there was an Aubon pen that had no employees. I just walked in there and it was open. It was totally deserted. But you can go to giveitupfilm.com. And, really, we need to really just put the goddamn phone down for a second because this is it. If this is a movie, this is it. We're about to enter a montage.
You're in it. 100%. All right, Gareth, take care. Miss you already. Where'd he go? Where? All right. Well, I'm not going to be alone for too long because he is a politics reporter covering the Trump White House, poor thing, and the 2026 midterm elections. He's formerly a senior writer for Wired, The Daily Beast, and Business Insider, and you can read his free newsletter straight from the hut on Substack. Please welcome Jake Lahut.
Great to be here. Hey.
Good to have you. You have this new piece out in New York Magazine all about Nancy Mace. Can you remind me the name of it? Because it's got a great name.
Yeah, the headline is Nancy Mace is not okay.
She is not okay. And you explain why. And I'm gonna play her response because she calls this a hit piece.
Oh boy, well, which one? I guess I'll find out.
Well, let's just she preempted this article coming out. Here's what she said.
All the establishment is coming after me again. This time, New York Magazine is writing the next national hit piece against me. Apparently, if you don't take the advice of overpaid consultants, you need some kind of a diagnosis because you have an affliction. The whole thing is just sort of silly. But that's what the establishment does when you don't conform or follow their rules. And if I have enemies, good. They didn't lie. It means I've done something. It means I've stood for something. My values and my principles, and because I listen to you, the people. I don't listen to anybody else. I've never been a good old boy. I never will be. And doing the same thing we've always done is what got us into this mess.
Oh, God. Okay, so we just have to... The music is too much.
I enjoyed the music personally.
It just like the hero music, and she's saying this is because she's anti-establishment. She's not going to have overpaid consultants. Jake, as you report, she does not have a chief of staff anymore. Or a campaign manager. And it seems like she is still running for governor of South Carolina. So I just want to kick it to you because I am just curious, who is Nancy Mace? Where did she come from? And how long has she been where she is?
So Nancy Mace has been in Congress for 3 terms now and came onto the scene really for the 2020 election, gets to Congress right before January 6th happens. And at the time, she's kind of fashioning herself as sort of like a maverick, sort of like a kind of never Trump Republican, kind of like a John McCain type. She's chill with LGBT issues. She advocated when she was in the South Carolina state legislature for exceptions for rape and incest and an abortion law. And basically it was only her and Democrats on that. Now, weirdly, a lot of the coverage leaves out that Nancy Mace actually worked for the Trump campaign in 2016 and got fired. And yeah,
Whoa.
So some of my sources,
bar.
Yeah, some of my sources think that the reason involved something to do with stealing data or email lists. I think I know people who would know from that campaign, but I didn't talk to them for this story, and that kind of became like a secondary thing that didn't make it in.
Sure.
So she gets to Congress, and then January 6th happens. And a scoop that I had at the Daily Beast was that she wanted to basically go down to the floor of the House while it's getting ransacked by the rioters and the QAnon shaman or whatever. And she wanted to engage them so that she would, quote, get punched in the face to get media attention. And that kind of like gives you what you need to know about this lady early on, which is, you know, on the one hand, she kind of has a lot of like natural talents. You know, people like an old school Chris Matthews type or whatever, they would use that term political athlete, which we don't really, you know, certainly no one my age in politics journalism uses that term. But I think it does kind of describe in the best way like what someone like Nancy Mace is, which is that she does have like an energy and a charisma that you really can't teach a candidate. And that's why a lot of Republicans saw a ton of promise in her early on in her career. You know, she was the first woman to graduate from the undergraduate program at the Citadel, which is a military college that was traditionally all male in South Carolina. Also, notable footnote on that, her father just so happened to be the headmaster while she was there. And there was also another woman who was the first woman to attend the undergraduate program who really kind of paved the way for Nancy in a lot of ways. Through court cases and whatever, and that woman faced a ton of harassment and backlash and ended up withdrawing from the school like right after it had started. So she's a high school dropout, and you know, I think actually had a really gnarly stretch in her teenage years where she was sexually assaulted. A friend of hers died in a pretty horrific car accident. So she's out of high school. She starts working in a Waffle House, which has kind of like resurfaced more in her you know, campaign messaging. And then she ends up at the Citadel.
Which is very funny because it's a little bit like Nancy Mace increasingly seems to have Waffle House energy as you report. Like there's a lot going on that can kind of be explained maybe by the time working at Waffle House. I will just point out, yeah, this sounds rough, but also her family was clearly had money.
Yeah, and like she doesn't talk about her folks a lot. I know that she, is still in touch with them. There's no like estrangement going on there, but yeah, I mean, I think it was a tough juncture where she was going to sort of toughen up and learn discipline at the Citadel. But I actually think that period in her life explains a lot of her core personality, which is, when she's there as the only woman. I've heard her describe this kind of general scene to a friend, where every room she goes in, or she's going to the cafeteria or wherever, all the dudes would just kind of like move away, and she would always be sitting by herself. So very early on, she's dealing with a lot of not just attention, but negative attention, a lot of male attention, and dealing with like, okay, how do I use this to my advantage? Right. So, she actually got into politics kind of a little later in her career. She got a master's in journalism and comms at Georgia. She actually had a stint working for this local outlet in South Carolina that I really like called Fitz News. I think it's one of the only conservative publications that actually has like legit news and scoop chops, and they're kind of tabloidy. They've really come back to bite her as they cover all this drama in her life extensively, and they get a lot of dirt in South Carolina politics where pretty much everyone plays dirty.
Right. Okay, so she comes as this sort of like anti-MAGA Republican, a little John McCain-y, but she absolutely pivots. I mean, we know Nancy Mace for leading all of these, just vitriolic anti-trans bills. She's freaking out. She's doing stunt after stunt. She seems to embrace MAGA deeply, especially during the Biden years, or after Trump is elected. Can you explain to me also, like, this turn, and then you talked to former staffers of hers. What was she like? How did she treat them? And how much did she actually drink?
Okay. Well, so to start with the flip-flopping and her very weird arc in Trump world, basically the whole image that we just described starts to change really when the redistricting of her congressional district happens. So a high percentage, I think it was around 60% of the black voters in Charleston end up getting chopped off from this district.
Okay.
In class, we're talking some classic cracking and packing for, those of you who study gerrymandering and, AP history or whatever. So suddenly her district gets way more conservative and red, and she needs to worry about fending off potential primary challengers. And that's where, you really need to embrace the MAGA agenda whole hog, or your job is really at risk. And she kind of saw an in there because she, at the time, had some decent connections in Trump's orbit and did have the cred of working on the campaign in 2016. And if you remind the president of that enough, it can work for your advantage.
Right.
Now, things start to get a little off the rails for her when I talked to former staffers, when she turned on Kevin McCarthy and was one of the Republicans who voted to oust him in the speaker vote. And that's how he ended up with Mike Johnson. Notably, the last bill that was passed on the House floor under McCarthy was the Nancy Mace Cybersecurity Act. So this was like a big deal in terms of trust just among the House Republican conference, because suddenly all these guys are like, whoa, like, in the words of one of these former staffers I talked to, he was like using of all things, a Bill Maher-ism, where Bill Maher once said that Trump, plays a crazy person on TV, but when Bill Maher went to visit him at Mar-a-Lago, he realized that like privately he was a more or less reasonable guy. That's what this former staffer thought they were signing up for with Nancy Mace, that she just played a crazy lady on TV, but she was actually strategic and reasonable and talented and an up and comer. And, if she just listened to the right advice from the staff, they could be on something, of a real special run here.
Right.
Then after the McCarthy vote, people are like, okay, that didn't work in your favor. She starts to have a big wave of turnover in her office. And the real turning point in terms of like the baseline levels of Nancy Mace chaos and this kind of new level of crazy that we're dealing with now starts to happen around November of 2024, going into the early, winter of 25. And that kind of culminates in this floor speech she gives. So Nancy Mace breaks up from her ex-fiance, this guy, Patrick Bryant, South Carolina businessman, in that November of 24. So they split. They have a number of real estate agreements. So they co-own notably an almost $4 million house on the beach in Isle of Palm, down in South Carolina. And the split is pretty acrimonious. And suddenly Mace decides to go nuclear, and without really telling much of her staff or advisors, goes on the House floor in February last year and levels these really insane allegations against Bryant, alleging that he not only, had domestically abused and sexually assaulted her, but also was involved in this essentially a child sex trafficking ring.
Yes,
with these other 3 guys in South Carolina. So, we could go into that all day. But
So I played this on the show. I looked at that, and it was so weird. She was clearly taking like something very personal, something that should be, if true, like a criminal case against her ex-fiance, and she's taken up floor time, and she's flanked by other women. I think was it Boebert
and Anna Paulina Luna.
Luna.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, Boebert less so, but like Anna Paulina Luna seems to be, I mean, have they really been that out in front on Epstein? Not so much, but like it was seen as this sort of like, Republican feminist moment. And I remember reading that like maybe Mace like hacked her ex's phone, which, look, if he's a criminal, like he's a criminal, but like, is she a hacker? Like, that's where some of what I understood to be, that like she is actually very adept at like herself, like hacking phones and cybersecurity.
So this is tricky. So like her staff and people who've worked with her or advised her or whatever will tell you that she considers herself a hacker and very adept at technology, very in the kind of like a very Gen X sense.
Right.
As for her coding abilities, that's debatable. I don't want to say that she can't code, but I think that like the extent to which she can, I don't really know. She's also, dabbles in AI stuff. She was briefly representing herself in this litigation with the ex-fiance and cited cases that don't exist by using ChatGPT or some other software, it would appear. No one even knows who has this phone that she got all this, this trove of what she says are damning photos and videos from. So basically what we're dealing with here is the Bryant guy had a home security system. And at one point, Mace showed a nude photo of herself during a House committee hearing.
Floor, she shows this photo of herself.
And let's pause there because there's a reason why she's doing this on the House floor, and that is the speech and debate clause of the Constitution. So theoretically, she is insulated from a libel defamation suit by virtue of saying this stuff on the House floor.
Right.
That is the subject of a gag order that this judge has put on both her and the ex-fiance. For example, Nancy Mace tweeted out a generative AI video similar to the one that Trump did with the jet dumping the literal shit on No Kings protesters. She put herself in a cockpit of a similar jet and dumped a bunch of shit on her ex-fiance and tweeted it out. As one does.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I'm a believe all women kind of gal, but this is just like what is happening right now?
It's a lot. And like, the folks I talk to, we're talking over a half dozen people who, either worked in her House office, have worked in her in a campaign capacity, or known her for years across the board. They are inclined to believe her on some of these allegations against Bryant that, there may have been domestic abuse. She has had not just the sexual assault in high school, but also she was a survivor of an incident at the Citadel when she was in college. And combating sexual abuse and standing up for survivors and victims has been a huge part of her career. Yep. So they're not saying like that's all bullshit or anything. However, the child sex trafficking stuff and all that is a lot. There's still a dispute over whether Mace or Bryant has this phone and whether she accessed the phone legally. She claims that he gave her like a fingerprint for that era of the iPhone. He claims that she used some sort of disk drive to like strip, like had a script that stripped all of the photos, videos, metadata of this phone. And when she showed that nude on the House floor, some of my sources saw that and they're like, look, this is not, it would seem to be a peeping Tom camera. It looks like it's a security camera in the corner of a kitchen at this beach house looking at the front door. And Mace is, just walking around her house nude. Some of us, I'm one to walk around my apartment naked as well. It's a totally normal thing. But, she was sort of presenting this as like a smoking gun in that legal case. And it's just been a mess, and it's become very personal for her, clearly. And that's where some of the staff are like, look, we've supported you in how you branded yourself as an advocate for victims of sexual abuse, but this is like becoming way too much about you at this point. And it's a sign of her not really listening to any advice and just kind of going off the rails in a little rogue, you know?
Speaking of making it all about her, I mean, I did want to, some of the most salacious stuff in your piece, we're talking to Jake Lahut, who's got this new piece in the New York Magazine, all about Nancy Mace, saying Nancy Mace is not well, is how much she was obsessed with her image and made like her staff like vote up comments on Reddit about like the hottest, staffer on the Hill. Nancy Mace,
hottest women in Congress.
Hottest women in Congress. Nancy Mace, best rack in DC. I don't know if this is, we know that she created like multiple, obviously like burner accounts or, accounts on Twitter and all this. She really was obsessed with that. She made her staffers do this kind of shit and then also made them buy her copious amounts of alcohol. Like what can you tell me about that?
So there, a couple of one of the scoops in the story is that she had the staff make booze runs for her going back to her first term. After midnight, I think, some of these staffers just had alcohol on deck in the event that there was nothing open, and they would bring her, a bottle of tequila or two or whatever to keep a party going at her house. So this wasn't just her drinking solo. And that's the thing is like, as Nancy Mace's career is kind of devolved. Yes, this is sitting there with Congress, and this is ostensibly would be against House rules to have a staffer deliver you alcohol for personal reasons. But this happened frequently enough that it was known that this would fall to a certain kind of aid. And usually someone pretty junior. Her drinking became enough of a problem that some staffers really worried about it, but they didn't really always know whether what they were seeing was the result of alcohol or substance use, or if it was just her being a little weird. And, Mace will say stuff like, she tweeted today, another bit of original content on the story, a thing where she got a custom mug in the last couple days, like the last day, I don't know, that says, yes, right here, not tequila. And I should point out that New York Magazine has excellent fact checkers, and I worked with a fact checker for about a week, going back to my sources and going through everything in this story. We sent the Mace camp an extremely detailed list of things that would be in the story. Mm-hmm. They sent a cease and desist letter to me and to Vox Media. And then within 48 hours of that cease and desist letter, I was on the phone with Nancy Mace, and we got her to go on the record for 2 comments.
And
so this has been all over the place.
Said that she doesn't want a chief of staff, I believe.
Yeah, she never wants to have a chief of staff or a campaign manager ever again. And then there was another one that I actually thought was somewhat self-aware and insightful about how, sometimes she feels like this 16-year-old girl from her tiny hometown just trying to make it. And, look, I think that a lot of what she's been going through, without getting too armchair psychologist-y about it, is some sort of trauma response. And I think it's a deep, deep wound that's run back a number of decades in her life. And I think that this split from Bryant, we don't really know a lot of the specifics of what happened, but clearly it was a lot.
It did something. Sorry, in this tweet, by the way, she says, press should really fact check before running lies, hence your, explanation there. I have a lifelong genetic affliction which prevents me from consuming much alcohol. It's called hemochromatosis. Look it up. And then she's got a mug that says not tequila on it. I mean, you can also know that she hasn't been well based on, there have been multiple interactions. You talk about an instance at an airport when like she wasn't properly met by security at the, in the security line or something like this. And then we've also seen like, a guy filming her as a constituent going like, hey, I don't like what you're doing with trans people, or something to this effect. And she like loses her shit. I forgot what he said, but she like completely goes off the wall and is like so vile and so mean. And like she, I don't have sympathy. Like I don't have sympathy, really for, I have the amount of sympathy that I do for Fetterman. It's like, yeah, you defend a genocidal regime and you're a piece of shit turncoat. And Nancy Mace, you're a transphobe psychopath who's like just such an opportunist, but like, what are you doing? Thank God she's not in the Senate, unlike Fetterman.
Well, it could be a governor of a state overseeing people's taxpayer money. I'll start real quick with the trans issues. So this is the weird thing, because she was really inclusive and open in her rhetoric about the LGBT community early in her career.
Yeah.
And people who've known her for a long time are like, no, she's like a genuinely chill, open-minded person when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get weird talking about gay or trans issues, but she clearly sees it as a fundraising juggernaut and a key issue in Trump's, reshaping of the party. And they being the former Mace staffer, see it as even worse and more cynical, because they know she doesn't believe this shit. And she's, effectively trying to terrorize Sarah McBride, the first trans member of Congress. And, they point to Mace's turn on the trans issues as a classic example of her making it look even more unhinged than it really is to sell it, essentially. So
I mean, she's out here like saying the T word, right? She's like slurring all over the place, right? Isn't that her?
Oh yeah, no, very aggressive, talking about like checking people's genitals and stuff. It's a lot. So that, unfortunately, for just reasons of space and flow and kind of like the ranking of unhinged things she's been doing, didn't make it in the story. Airport Gate is a very important thing, though, in this governor's race that she's in. So this was another scoop of mine when I was at Wired. I got an incident report from the Charleston Airport Police about Mace. And basically it was this. She shows up at the airport early in the morning to fly to DC, which, by the way, my understanding was it was for an APAC fundraiser and not for official house business that particular time. She does not normally go through regular TSA security. She's supposed to be met by a security detail of airport police officers at a certain entrance, and she goes through the crew entrance where you get it's not as heavy as TSA security. Basically, someone on her staff gave the airport the wrong color and make of the car she was in, and then Mace went to a different entrance than was specified. And what it basically culminates in this Karen-esque rant against these airport cops. And by the way, this is during the government shutdown, so the TSA people and everyone around there, they're not getting paid, right?
Yeah.
The airport, as far as I understand it, and when you look at the videos of her starting to, go off on these agents, it's not very crowded, but she really wants the special security. Like the TSA line, from my understanding, was not that crowded. She could have gone through regular security and made her flight with this delay of meeting with the detail. But instead, she's ranting to these cops about how they're, fucking incompetent, that they wouldn't do this to Tim Scott, the black senator from South Carolina. So that's a whole loaded message and accusation, which leads him to weigh in on this whole thing and condemn it. And then she also just had some strays directed towards an American airline gate agent. So this, I get this scoop, publish it blows up. Mace ends up continually talking about the story, which has been a recurring theme with my coverage of her throughout her career, going back to the initial burner story. And when I got this staff handbook from her office about quotas for her to appear on TV and stuff. So she starts suing the airport and American Airlines. This has been
you behind all of this. I mean, you poor soul, but also you've been breaking all this stuff. And it's so weird to have your main subject be someone who simultaneously, thinks that she's an anti-establishment person, but is obsessed with news coverage of her.
Yes, very, very, to a fault, probably. So she sues the airport, and basically this starts to become a legitimate local issue. So she holds a couple press conferences about this. It's dominating, to a certain extent, South Carolina local TV coverage. The local papers are picking it up. And even though she has the highest name ID in this sort of crowded field, there are like 4 or 5 candidates running for governor in South Carolina on the Republican ticket, or in that primary. She goes from the front runner to polling in like 3rd or 4th, and her support falls in about half. And that's where she's at right now. Her de facto campaign manager, this guy, Austin McCubbin, who's in Trump world, a very respected operative with a lot of experience, with digital fundraising in that state, and is considered kind of a good all-in-one, campaign consultant guy. He quits her campaign. And by the way, on her point way earlier in the pre-buttal about, overpaid consultants, she stiffed this guy. So he can't be overpaid if she didn't pay him.
Damn.
But just leave that aside. Now we're at a point where this guy's left. She has no campaign manager, no chief of staff in her house office. She might get embarrassed in this primary if not be able to come back and win it. And McCubbin goes on the record and says, look, for her own well-being, I don't hate her. unlike maybe her ex-staffers who may be a little disgruntled, but for her own well-being, she should leave politics and just enjoy private life. Completely.
Yeah. A couple comments because I think they're very fun. Garrett Olson says she's got main character syndrome. Brad Masters report said, not gonna lie, I kind of like that mug. But Emily Sigmund, thanks for the super chat, says, okay, forcing your daughter to go to an all-male school after having been SA'd is effed up and actually inspires a level of pity for me for pre-political Nancy Mace.
I have that too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard when you cover someone in all these sort of like, I mean, for lack of a better term, crash outs that she's going through here. To be
that is a good term.
It's like, maybe you don't want to be here. Like, this ain't for you. And I also think it's like, I mean, it also is really fucked up because like to the level of, being a trans staffer or being someone who's on the receiving end of someone who is both clearly mentally unwell, but then also very vitriolic and also like a showman is not good. I want to ask because there is, some redeeming qualities about Nancy Mace, and that's perhaps her talking about Epstein survivors and very much standing with the, people who've been speaking out. She's been at the press conferences. She voted also to release all the Epstein files, and was under pressure from Donald Trump to not go along with Democrats on this, but she did, and the majority of House, let's be real, but she kind of like Marjorie Greene seems to have fallen out of favor with MAGA because of the Epstein files. Marge is on a kind of war path and obviously is resigning from Congress, but Mace is not. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, this is where it's really interesting to compare Mace to an MTG or a Lauren Boebert or an Elise Stefanik in terms of like these women really laid a lot of their credibility on the line for Trump and like what did they get out of it? Mace could have gotten a locked-in Trump endorsement out of this Epstein vote. Basically, Trump is calling her for a 2-day period, and she's not picking up. And, the White House's, my reporting indicates the White House's message to her, and some of these were also Trump advisors who don't work in the White House, is basically, look, you, unlike these other Republicans voting for the discharge petition, which I believe is Boebert, Massey, and MTG, unlike those folks, you're on the oversight committee. You can still advocate for victims and basically do whatever you want. Just don't make us look bad and change your vote on this thing, even if it passes anyway. They're like, we will get you the endorsement for governor in South Carolina. And by the way, that endorsement goes back to the 2024 campaign where the deal with her was at the time, if you endorse Trump before Nikki Haley could even get back to South Carolina for their primary, we'll endorse you for governor as long as you endorse whoever the fuck we want in 2028.
Right.
Sky's the limit for you.
Right.
So she has all the leverage in the world leading up to this Epstein vote and sticks to her guns, doesn't do it, keeps her vote. And I think that this is a consistent thing in her career where she really is very principled on this specific front, but it's come at a great cost to her. And that's the thing about talking to all these folks, for a couple months. And I've also sort of trauma bonded these various generations of Mace staffers. And it's just a very weird experience.
Like the different waves of, because you've spoken to many different ex-staffers.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of turnover and some people have come back and that's a whole thing. But like it kind of has this, what they'll describe as like a reality distortion field, which you'll hear described to people like a Trump or even, I'm not comparing Nancy Mace to Steve Jobs here, but someone like Steve Jobs had this trait where you really will believe your own lies or kind of smudges of reality to the point where you can very convincingly sell it. And unfortunately for Mace, I think that she used to be able to affect more people with that. And that reality distortion field, along with her social circle, keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And she's just kind of lived and died by the sword of, our online attention economy. And it's really done some damage to her.
I mean, it's interesting, too, because, it's also like which Republicans will be lifted up. I mean, Massey has faced a lot, but he's also a man and he's able to kind of like be in front on the Epstein files. For whatever reason, either she's not mentally well enough or organized enough or focused enough to be a Massey of the Republican Party. But also she's a woman. And so she'll never actually, I think a lot of Republican women are having this kind of come to Jesus moment about who the fuck their party defends, right?
And what the
who
double
they-
standard really is. Yeah. I think they thought they had an understanding of the double standard in politics, but it's like there is one, but there's also a very unique one in the Republican Party. And it's kind of like a Madonna horror type complex, like not to get like very, college campus, like Freudian about or whatever, but like there is a thing where they're either held up in a very kind of simplified, sexualized view, or they're just dismissed and not really given the same credit that a man doing the exact same thing would normally get.
Yeah, and either way, there's going to be a ceiling for you.
Yes.
Although,
hers, that's the thing. I think a lot of these Trump advisors and people I know who worked for her thought that she could maybe be on the ticket one day.
Yes.
She did briefly work her way into the VP mix in 2024. What I would watch out for in the future, regardless of what happens with her in this primary, is there's this alliance with Rand Paul that she's got. And this has really perked up a lot of ears in Trump world. She actually worked for Rand Paul's presidential campaign, or a PAC, I believe, supporting him in the 2016 election after she got fired from the Trump campaign. And now, she has some sort of relationship with Rand Paul, with a super PAC that Rand Paul has, which is also helping her out for governor. And, she wants to kind of have this alliance we'll sort of see emerge sometimes of like a libertarian-ish wing of the party with Massey, a Rand Paul. Elon has really dabbled in like this stuff. One thing I didn't get to fit in the story was I have a firsthand source who saw Mace and Ted Cruz sitting across from each other in the aisle in first class on a flight from Las Vegas to Austin, Texas, around the time that the airport gate story broke. And it was allegedly for some sort of Halloween shindig that Elon was throwing down in Texas. Ugh. So she doesn't really have friends, but she has also formed these other allegiances outside of Trump world. And unfortunately, though, since her campaign manager or campaign chief, because technically he's a consultant and on the campaign itself, ever since that guy quit, all she's got is Trump's phone number. And an ability to try to get him on the phone, which she is able to, as far as I understand, sometimes. But she doesn't have these other alliances in his campaign. Another big one was Chris LaCivita, Trump's former co-campaign manager. He was a consultant for Mace early in her career. So like there were people who were willing to put up with a various amount of wacky behavior or whatever with her because they thought, she could really be a sort of, whenever the Trump era turns into something else, or she could kind of catch that wave of the Trump era and ride it into something else. And it just hasn't worked out that way.
Well, and it hasn't worked out that way because she's unwell, but has a little bit of principle. And it seems
which is a
like
really
that
interesting
little
mix
bit
of it. Totally.
Right. It's that little bit of principle that screwed her, but it's true. Like Stefanik and Marjorie Greene got the short shrift and they've ridden so hard for Trump. And I've jokingly said, it's because, he doesn't want to sleep with them. And, it's just funny because like Nancy Mace, who thinks she's so hot and what I don't know, like, okay, I guess. But I'm like, it's funny because she maybe had all the things to like possibly, ascend. But she wasn't willing to go along with covering up, the pedo crime ring.
Yeah. And you look, I mean, other people who've advised her before, they're like, hey, like this John McCain Maverick thing you started out on is not a bad idea. And it could work if you just would listen to us and kind of do it in a gradual, strategic way. But she really is a great embodiment of what our modern politics kind of incentivizes and selects for people to run for office. Like if we keep going this way, we're going to have more Nancy Maces, not fewer. And the fact is, like a lot of the American public, she has a deep distrust in institutions and experts. Yes. So look at her campaign now. Aside from no chief of staff, no campaign manager, her finance director on the campaign is a friend she's known for a while who has zero experience in fundraising. Her main spokeswoman for the campaign graduated college in like 2023. So the people working around her are either like kids or like don't really have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And that's changed from the kind of people she was bringing in initially. And, there's just no one around her to say no or like yes and or yes, but that's like a horrible idea. Like, please, for the love of God, don't do that. There's no one there to say any of that.
Yeah, and I also think that is, I mean, we see that from inside the government, the regime itself, the administration. You see Kristi Noem or Bovino or these people who are more obsessed with their image. Even Patel, FBI is saying that, Patel and Bongino were more focused on tweeting. Like, it is not about legislating. It is not about, using your power or whatever. And I think also in a large part because fucking Republicans got everything they want. What else the fuck is there to take? You know what I'm saying? But they are, it's all about the showmanship and less about the substance. This is great reporting. God, you have been behind all of these scoops, Jake. Where can people find you and follow your work?
So I'm on Blue Sky, and there are not a lot of people with my name, so that helps. Just LAHUT. My TikTok is at please bring back Vine with an underscore in between all those, and please
you gotta
spell
go to Upscroll,
PLZ.
man. You gotta do something else. No more TikTok.
Yeah, look, maybe Vine will come back. I don't know. And then my Substack, which is it's basically a delivery mechanism for my freelance stuff. And then I have got a little hot scoop or something that doesn't make sense timeline wise to freelance. For example, I had a quick item on there about Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem going to war behind the scenes in Trump world, and how also Corey Lewandowski is involved in that very deeply. God. So that's just called Straight from the Hut on Substack, and no paywall. We just have kind of like a Wikipedia type model. Like if you want to pay to support, that's great. But yeah, I am on Twitter because that's where these folks hang out, but I'm mainly posting on, Blue Sky, the occasional talk here and there.
Jake Lahut, I'm pronouncing it right?
Yes.
Now I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. I have to follow you. Thank you so much for taking the time. This has been great. Take good care and come back soon. I know you'll be back. Noem versus Miller, and then Lewandowski. Because Noem and Lewandowski were together. I don't even want to get into that. That's for the next time. Thank you guys for being here. Let's read some comments and some super chats and thank everybody and get the hell out. Let's see. Moondragon, happy anniversary. Your blonde ambition persona scares the shit out of me. Sometimes I scare myself, but the blonde wig is so bad. Susan says, I would send you a super chat, Francesca, but I'm dead. Your Melania video killed me. Sorry. Thank you so much. Franny, you should do a Tulsi character. I want to see you in a gray streak wig. I want to see myself in that. I have a pretty good Tulsi. I won't bring her out now, but there is absolutely no emotion that is happening. In fact, that blink was not okay. It's terrifying. Donald James, I was wondering what kind of parties that old woman in your video went to. She sounded fun and dangerous. Yes, she was like, we've all been at the parties where there's dead people. The Mina says there's also a high proportion of boomers in the Frantifa. Yes, hell yeah. It's the Gen Xers we hate. Yes, they spelled Palantir all wrong. I'm just kidding, obviously. Let's see. The Brad Master says, I'm applying to law schools for this fall, but I'm so torn about South Carolina schools. If Mace is going to governor, I won't survive for 3 years there. I don't think she will. I don't think that's happening. Invalid SYN or invalid synapse. I can read. Oh my God, they stopped pointing cameras at her during the shutdown, so she freaked out. Yeah, pretty much. And Miss Felony Strutter saying Walter Masterson is expected to be arrested soon. You guys, this is very serious. I didn't talk about this. We haven't done an Orange Man Bad in a little bit, but you all know that, Don Lemon was arrested on Friday. I went on the Don Lemon show briefly. He's now out, but he was arrested under the FACE Act, which originally was legislation that was designed to protect abortion clinics. But of course, Democrats being who they are, in order to get Republicans to sign on to it, added protests at churches as well and places of worship. And Walter was, talking and protesting Tom Suozzi, New York Congress member, for his vote to fund ICE. And he was in a synagogue. It was not a religious event, but it was an event in a synagogue. And now the DOJ is going after him specifically because he was in a synagogue. I mean, this is the kind of bad faith with which the right weaponizes, kind of like they had sort of a kill switch in so many different pieces of legislation the Democrats allowed to get passed in this flawed form that we're now seeing be weaponized against the very people maybe that it was supposed to protect, like actual protesters and not people who were, threatening women who wanted to go get abortions at Planned Parenthood. So it's terrifying. I will stay on that story, of course. Let's play the fart song and thank all the good people out there in the ether over on Substack. You guys become a member of the Frantifa, patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Get this shout out if for $10 or more. Also, if you're a Substack subscriber, you get a shout out. Please send me your questions for the AMA on next Monday. This goes out on Substack. Thanks. You're the best. Thank you, Late Bloomer, for resubscribing over on Twitch. Saying all this is going to make me sick to my stomach. Yes, we're talking about the Epstein files. Androgynosferatu. That's an insane name. Thank you so much for subscribing as well. And getting these lovely shout outs here. New member on YouTube, China Shop Music. Thank you. Appreciate you. Bienvenidos. And thanks to everybody who supports at the lower tiers too. I haven't forgotten about you. I see you and I love you. And stay tuned. I've got a video coming out all about predictive markets, aka gambling thing on politics through things like Polymarket and Kalshi. That will be dropping this weekend. I gotta go burn both ends of the candle to put that out for y'all. Thank you to Paige Omak, to Brent Godin, the amazing Brent, and to Andy Vasoyan. We're streaming Tuesdays, except for next week, Mondays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And remember to fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it. Bye.